recorded a video, so I will be uploading that this weekend. At least she told me she did. So I don't know what she did yet. I haven't watched already. She just told me what she did, but I haven't seen it. So once I see it and upload it, you guys will get to see it. Um, Hope you're digging the lo-fi music in the background. It's a little um, militaristic, and that's for a purpose. So yesterday was um, the 80th memorial of D-Day. I didn't get to do anything last night. I did an earlier live stream yesterday, but I didn't do a second live stream that evening just because I got caught up with other things, so I didn't get to do it. So I'm going to do it this afternoon right now. Um, let's, talk and celebrate the the valiant heroes of D-Day. So what is D-Day? So D-Day, guys, is the day that the American soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy. 70, 73,000, if I recollect correctly, 73,000 American soldiers stormed Normandy. And at least four of those guys won the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is the highest military award you can receive for valor in combat. And they took the beach. We have combat maneuvers that we that you know soldiers practice because of the things that they did that day, such as the 3 to 5 second rush. Um, and there's plenty of movies that they give depictions of D-Day. I mean, you have Private Saving Ryan, which is a pretty graphic display of what happened that day. And you have some others as well. The That great HBO series made by Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks gives a description of D-Day. Guys, I'm not talking about dumb shit today, so you'll just get timed out. I'm talking about D-Day. I realize some of you aren't American. That's fine. D-Day is something important to me as a veteran. I don't want to hear dumb shit about stuff that has nothing to do with D-Day. This is the 80th celebration of D-Day. It's a very important event in American history that turned the tides of World War II. I don't want to hear about random stuff. I don't want to hear anything about calling me Don Cheadle. It's not funny. We've been doing that for the last 4 weeks. If you say something about me looking like Don Cheadle, again, it's not funny anymore. So I'm just going to time you out. Stick with the topic or go somewhere else and go to their live stream. That's it. That's all. That would be your one and only warning. Stick to what I am talking about on this live stream or go somewhere else. You will be timed out or you will be banned. I don't care about anything else you're talking about. Not one other fucking thing that you're talking about. D-Day. That's what I'm talking about. If you're not talking about anything related to military, serving in the armed forces, celebrating those heroes who gave the ultimate sacrifice on that day, I don't want to hear anything the fuck you got to talk about. Period. Full stop. That's it. Glam, you can be the first one to get the fuck out. Disco Dreamcast is my grandpa station in Guam, World War II. That's what's up. Um, so my so I don't know too much about my grandparents' military service, but I I believe both my grandfathers served. Um, if I was on good if I was on good terms with my father, I would ask him about what my grandfather did. Actually, I have his this the thing we did for his funeral. I can go to that and check it out. Um, I don't know too much about his military service. I just remembered that I was surprised at his funeral reading that he played in the minor leagues. Um, but I don't think he was old enough to be in World War II. I think he may have served in during the Korean War, but I'm not sure. You getting timed out too, thief? I don't told you I'm not hearing this dumb shit about Don Cheadle. Cut it out. Like I'm talking about celebrating D-Day, celebrating the soldiers who fought. Some of you are such a. Um, I did not want to go hard today. I'm gonna try not to, but some of you are fucking losers. Like the only strife you've ever learned was playing video games. So I can't take some of you seriously. Seriously, some of you under 30, I really can't take seriously. Like you've never done anything that made you earn manhood. What's up, J.A.C? Um, but yeah, so like I said, yesterday was the 80th um, memorial of D-Day. And like I said, I wanted to get to it last night, but I completely forgot because I was caught up in other things. Joshua says I'm 31, good to go. And again, you can be under 30. That's fine. I'm just saying there's a lot of folks. So people under 28 are Generation Z, and a lot of them are just very. They're not very manly. I'm just gonna be blunt. Like they're not. Half of them didn't have to go through physical education and grade school, and it shows. A lot of them, the only war they've known is playing video games. They freaked out during the pandemic when the only thing they had to do was stay home and watch video games and watch Netflix. And they act like it was the sky was falling down. Like this is why older people sometimes cynically say we need a World War III just to toughen up the current batch of men that we have. Like people are sitting here making jokes about Don Cheadle, of which I do not really look like. As long as his career has been going, I've not once been referred to as Don Cheadle up until the time that I started doing these live streams. I've been accused of looking like other celebrities, but not him. Um, let's see. So Kai Wawe, you're a good dude, but please, I just want to talk about like, you know, commemorating soldiers. You guys can still ask me, questions. That's fine. But I'm just saying I'm not really dealing with the trolling today because I just want to, use this as a platform to celebrate all the guys from the armed forces, those veterans who serve, who some of them who are still alive today that were there during D-Day. Um, it was actually funny that someone made a joke yesterday, I think on the Daily Show, saying that when Biden gave a commemoration of the of D-Day, he finally got to be amongst people who actually made him look young. So that was a little bit funny. Um, but yeah, there's still people who still survived to that day. And again, another joke was that Biden was actually alive when that happened. So that's how old that man is. Like that was 80 years ago, guys. Um, Jason Davis says, "God bless America. God bless our vets." Thank you, Jason. GJC says, "My grandparents served in Canadian and U.S. Army during World War II. My great uncle was in the South Pacific and has some cool stories." Oh, I bet. Um, I think one of the ways I was so good in my job. So a lot of people always ask what I do in real life. So I do like lead generation, direct marketing, and one of the reasons I was so effective, probably in selling to people, was so one of our primary things we did through direct marketing was we worked for different banks and lenders, trying to get people to refinance either VA, excuse me, VA home loans or FHA loans. We sometimes did private loans as well, but mostly VA and FHA. And when I would talk with these veterans, some of these guys, were older folks, and they had cool stories to tell. And instead of me just trying to pitch them on, trying to refinance the homes. They would ask me sometimes, hey, have you ever served? And I say, yeah. And I would ask them, and they would just start, telling me stuff about what they did. And just the fact that they had someone to listen to made them more likely to want to, talk with you and talk with the loan officers that we had contracts with. Um, because at the end of the day, no matter what you're selling like no matter what the product or service that you're selling. Like when you're talking to people, when you come up to them, whether in person or on the phone or door to door, you're selling yourself. You're not selling the product. And being that they just had an ear that they could talk to someone just made them appreciative. I've heard some pretty cool stories from veterans on the phones, when I called them about refinancing their VA home loan. I have people talk to me who were in special forces, like telling me stuff. Um, I had one guy, I believe he was a Green Beret. He was making fun of the Navy SEALs saying they talk too much about the stuff they do. um, I've had, some guys. I don't think I had anyone from World War II, but I did have a Korean War veteran. As a matter of fact, I even told him not to refinance because I told him I'm not at your age is not worth what he wanted. He actually did want to refinance. I told him don't do it because he wanted to take cash out of the house and that was going to restart his mortgage a whole 30 years. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to tell this guy. And my supervisor was like, "No, he said, why didn't you do it?" I was like, "No." I said that man entered the war in World War II and served during the Korean War. I said, I'm not going to convince that man to do a cash out refinancing on his mortgage just just to restart a whole new 30-year loan. I was like, if he, I mean, if he does really need the cash, there's other ways he can do it, like a reverse mortgage, which they don't call them reverses anymore because people, realize that a lot of reverse mortgages are a scam. A lot of them are. Um, but yeah, so I've talked with a lot of cool veterans through my job, and um, thinking of D-Day and stuff like that, it makes you appreciate some of the stuff that some of these older folks have gone through and some of the stories they could tell us. So anyway, let me get back to the comments. Joshua says, "Do you have to be masculine to deserve respect?" I don't get what you mean. I think as a man, you should be masculine because that is the trait of men. Now, we're not talking about, you know, gender identity or sexual orientation or anything like that. I'm not trying to go that far as skew. My point is a lot of younger men, not you, Joshua, but a lot of younger men deserve the derision that a lot of older folks see in them because they're not masculine. And at the end of the day, there's always the threat of violence, especially in an increasingly interconnected world where we have foreign adversaries that would like nothing but to see us fail. We have a porous um, border between us and Mexico where we have operatives to come in through that border disguised as migrants. So stuff is real. And yeah, if the only people they can defend us are people who can do nothing but play Call of Duty on PlayStation, that's a problem. James says, "Hello, brother. What's up, James?" CJ says, "What's up, bro? What's up?" Joshua says, "My grandfather flew Spitfires for the British. That's what's up. Didn't die, so I got to exist." That's always a good thing, right? So D Day isn't just about the folks who died. That's Memorial Day. That's a whole different celebration. And Memorial Day is the holiday where we celebrate the folks who gave the ultimate sacrifice, who died in the line of service. That's not D-Day. There was a lot of people who did survive D-Day, but it was a very bloody battle, and it turned the tide of the war. Like I said, it was like 73,000 soldiers who landed on the beaches of Normandy and braved it, that they could win the day. And just on that day alone, four soldiers won the Medal of Honor, four consecutive medals of honor in one day. Um, that's a huge thing. No diddy, but um, CJ11 says hi. You look like that dude from the Avengers who has an Iron Man suit. Again, I'm not taking the Don Cheadle jokes today. GJC says favorite show of all time is MASH. I'm not that old enough. I'm not that old though. I'm mid 30s. Yeah, yeah. I mean, even when I was a kid, and I'm in my late 40s. Like even when I was a kid, that that show was old because it came out in the 70s. Yeah, it came out in the 70s and it ended in the 80s. And I remember it was like a huge thing when the show finally ended. I never got into it, to be honest. Um, I've watched a few episodes when I was a kid because when you're a kid, you end up watching just random things that's on TV, especially before the heyday of like cable television. I mean, cable existed then, but it wasn't what it was until like the mid '80s. But yeah, I was never into MASH. Max says, "Welcome back, brother." Thanks, Max. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Like I said, guys, you can ask me questions, but I was just saying, getting sort of tired of the little Don Cheadle thing. Like it's like every single every single day for 4 weeks. It's like kind of grating at this point because I really don't look like the dude, and it's like of all the black celebrities out there, you compare me to that one single person whom I don't even resemble. I've not never had one family member or friend say that I look like that guy. But in any case, yeah. So like I said, there's several movies about it that that give highlights of that day and how bloody it was. Like I said, Saving Private Ryan, and I can't remember the 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 series produced by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. The Pacific was one version of it, but that was mostly in the Pacific arena. But there was one about the about Airborne, and I can't remember the name of it. And then there was several other movies as well. So if people are curious, like what actually, because I know a lot of people may like be like, "What's D-Day?" Like I think some video games have done things about it. Again, I'm guessing Call of Duty probably did, which is sad if that's your only entry point into what the military does. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of movies out there to check out if people want to know more about D-Day. And there's some documentaries as well that actually give you like the real stuff. GJ says, did you celebrate D-Day in a special way when actively serving? Um, Not that I can recall. Um, so like thinking back, so like when I first enlisted, it was in like January of 1998, and then I think we went to boot camp in somewhere around February. Came out around April, May. Then went to my advanced individual training, and came out right before July the 4th, actually, sometime around June. I don't remember doing any. Let me see. Actually, hmm, no, I don't remember doing anything either then or at my permanent duty station, as far as I can remember. Max says this internet for you. Some people just don't know how to socialize anymore. You wouldn't say that to someone in real life. Exactly. Um, Max says, I'll be back, brother, making lunch. No problem. I need to eat as well pretty soon, so no problem there. But yeah, uh, GJC, I don't remember doing anything particularly during D-Day. Um, I usually haven't, like, especially because it doesn't usually fall like on a specific, like how other holidays fall on a specific day. Like Memorial Day is always on a Monday, and it's a federal holiday, so everyone has the day off. D-Day doesn't. They don't do that for D-Day because it's more of a minor holiday. It's more of something strictly for veterans and people, within the armed forces community. So it's not really anything major done as far as I know now. If I was like actively serving, then maybe. But again, it's like a Friday, so I don't know. I know, they did something big as far as like the White House. They gave a speech and did a bunch of other stuff, which was cool. And like I said, the joke was that, you know, with Biden commemorating the D-Day with some of these surviving veterans, he finally looked younger in comparison. So, because there's some folks still from that time. They're like octogenarians, even centenarians from that era. Not very many World War II vets left though, because this took place. D-Day was, I think, 1944. So GJC says, I wonder if the U.S. can ever rally together against a common enemy like they did in World War II. I would hope so, but like I said, our the younger men today. Now, the guys who are currently serving, I have I have full faith in them. I have full faith that they can pull it together. I don't have faith in most of the guys who are civilians. They're just, I mean, their little silly looking broccoli haircuts, or if they're black, the little braided that twist to the side, like the guy from the Acolyte, like like they all look like that now. um, they all think no, I won't go there, but yeah, I mean it's too much uh, feminism and rainbow pride to make me to have me have much faith in folks who aren't combat trained. Sierra says hi. What's up, Sierra? GJC says if D-Day happened today, it would be on social media and called an unnecessary act of violence or something silly. Yeah, like kind of like what they're doing over in the Middle East. Like, I don't want to get too much into that. That can probably be a topic for another day. But the whole thing of they need to cease fire and this and that. And yes, there's been some things I think that's been taken too far over there by Israel, but I still support them. Plus, like I've told other folks, off camera, hey, if you took my friends and family hostage, I would war, I would, I would, I would wage war un, unending as well until you gave them back to me unharmed. Like they still, it's like you can't. It's like that's why I just find it ridiculous. Like you can't tell people you want a ceasefire and you still holding those folks hostages from an event that happened months ago, where you basically just mass murdered a bunch of people at a music festival and then kidnapped and raped a bunch of them. So yeah. But anyway, yeah. Like I said, D-Day was such an uh, an historical event. Like I said, we have combat maneuvers that were made out of D-Day, like the 3 to 5 second rush. The 3 to 5 second rush is like a way of, like maneuvering where you're moving through live gunfire, and it's like the 3 to 5 second rushes. You can count it. I'm up. They see me. I'm down. I'm up. They see me. I'm down. And that's how you move. Like you assume that as soon as you get up, that you're being targeted to be shot. So as soon as you pop up, you dash and go right back to the ground. Like it's and I know some folks have complained that the chest rigs that they wear now makes it harder to do that. But I think a lot of grunts have said this, the chest rigs aren't worse than the old fashioned Alice web gear. I know some of you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. So the chest rigs are like these vests that they wear now where they attach a lot of their tools and gear, um, frag grenades, stuff like that. Whereas the the classical way was there was like a belt, a combat belt, that was connected to like a harness and suspenders and stuff like that, on which you put a lot of your gear. And a lot of people preferred that old way to the chest rig. Some people complain that you can't really properly like maneuver and low crawl and stuff with the chest rig like you could with the Alice web gear. The Alice is like an acronym. So JRC Tech One says actually I need to study. Bye. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks for stopping by, JRC. This won't be a long live stream, guys. This is just like I said. I wanted to do this because I didn't do it last night, since I got busy, and just wanted to talk about, there was like D-Day celebration, and sort of mentioned that there are movies available that people can check out if they want to know more about know more about that day. Like I said, Saving Private Ryan is probably one of the best examples of that. That gives like a very vivid and graphic um, image of the storming of Normandy Beach and how they took it. And to be honest, I remember a lot of a lot of what I saw in Saving Private Ryan just scared me because I saw folks getting shot through their Kevlar helmet, and I'm like, damn, the Kevlar helmets don't really work. I was like, damn. One guy took his off for a second and got a bolt straight through the head. Another guy had on his Kevlar helmet and it still went straight through the head. And I'm like, wow. DJ says Inglorious Bastards is fantastic, not D-Day specific, but World War II. Yeah, Inglorious Bastards was pretty good. I like that movie. Plus, I love Brad Pitt's role. He's like, all of you owe me some Nazi heads, and I want my Nazis. um, yeah, that's a good movie. John says, have you taken a life in the military or in real life? No, I haven't. But if I had to do it in the military, I wouldn't have felt that broken up about it. To be honest, I remember when we were getting deployed, and I was talking with someone in my unit. He's like, man, he's like shooting a person would just be like, he's like, he said, you ever been hunting? I was like, no, not really. He's like, well, he said shooting a person would just be like shooting a deer. It's just meat. I'm like, come on, dude. I was like, I was, and at the time, I'm going to fully admit, I was fully into my little liberal progressive college student era. So I was a bit of a douchebag at the time. But I was like, man, I said, that's disgusting. I said, how can you compare a person to like a piece of meat? I said, that's completely different. I said, that's just revolting. And I remember one of the NCOs came by, one of the sergeants, and well, he said, well, if we're in combat, you are going to do what, you know, do your duty, right? I was like, yeah, of course, Sarge. I was like, but that doesn't mean I have to be like happy about it. He's like, all right, I'm just making sure. I said, no, I said, I'll do my duty. That doesn't mean I'm gonna revel in killing someone. I said, that's sick. So no, I have not taken a life in duty. I haven't served in active combat. I wasn't a My role was in a combat support role, doing cable and telephone installation and maintenance. They did often joke about us as being the infantry of the signal corps, though, because we will be out there on the front lines if need be, to run wire between different um, encampments or whatever, so for communication to happen. But um, no combat was necessary. All right, Anonymous, you're done. I already warned you. I'm not taking the Don Cheadle things, and you didn't even spell it correctly, you fucking idiot. Not taking any Don Cheadle jokes right now. I'm It's been 4 weeks, literally tired of it. It's every day. The fact that you're anonymous means you're not even worth talking to. So anyway, I'm probably gonna end this unless anybody has like any military questions or questions in general. Like I said, they don't have to be questions about the military per se or about war or army, but I would welcome those questions. But as far as the whole Don Cheadle jokes, I'm pretty goofy at this point. I'm sorry, and I just had to reconnect the the Wi-Fi, so hopefully you three folks whom I see right now are still here. And I'll probably do another stream later today, something more. Um, we'll see. I don't want to give away what the topic may be for later. But no, like I said, you can ask me any questions. It doesn't have to be military related, but I would welcome more military related questions if you have them. But yeah, but yeah, just to reiterate, no, I haven't taken a life in the military, nor in real life. In real life, that would be a whole different can of worms, because I'm not, you know, I'm not law enforcement on the civilian side, so I don't have the qualified immunity to take a life. Only, like law enforcement and some other folks have qualified immunity. Can I still be called back to serve? So that was actually, it was funny. Several months ago, there was this rumor amongst veterans saying that they were gonna they were bringing back prior service members and for to serve again. But we found out it was a hoax. But military folks love spreading like uh, gossip like that. But as far as I know, once you serve your contract, no, you can go back if you still qualify. What as far as age and all those other things, you can choose to go back and re-enlist. But no, after you've ended your term of service, we call it ETS in term of service. I think others might call it EOS, end of service, whatever, same thing. Once that's done, your military commitment is over. What they were doing, like during the different wars in the Middle East at the time, like the Persian Gulf War and the Afghanistan War, um, was that they were extending people's contracts. Like instead of letting them end their term of service, they just kept extending them. So that can happen, but to think that they're going to bring back people who are like in their 40s, 50s, and 60s to currently serve, yeah, that's not going to happen. Like that was clearly a hoax. So um, I don't think so. Also, I've seen some prior service folks last year went over to support Ukraine, I thought they were fucking nuts because I'm not giving my life for another country. I have no Ukrainian ancestry. Ukraine is not my country. I've never lived there. And for folks to go over there just to fight Russia, I was like, yeah, you guys are suicidal. I thought that was stupid. But Ukraine was welcoming American veterans to come over there and help them fight the war, which was absurd. I think you were a moron if you did that. So, AJ says hello everyone. Juso says we got money for wars but can't feed the poor. Yeah, it's literally true. Like the our defense spending budget is probably one of our highest expenditures in our GDP. But yeah, so like I said, that it was pretty funny because I was telling my wife at the time because I thought it was true. I was like, baby, they can. I said I said they might call me back, and she was like, what, for real? I was like, I don't know. I gotta find out. I said something's telling me this is not true, but I was like, let me make sure. And I was looking it up because, like I said, people in the services will spread rumors, and people will quickly start to believe it. Sort of like the whole, like I remember another common rumor when I was actively serving was that everyone was going to be required to get the anthrax vaccine, and that they, that didn't happen. But I think there was some panic that everyone's gonna be forced to take this vaccine and that it was gonna make us all sick. And basically, people were trying to compare it to what happened to people in Vietnam, and it just got overblown. But yeah, um, I have thought about going back in, but only for like the DC National Guard. That's if I don't move, out of state. But the DC National Guard is currently taking all prior service members, regardless of the branch they served in. However, unless you were like Army or Marines, then you might have to go through some retraining. Now, if you were prior service in the Army or Marines and you go to DC National Guard, um, it doesn't require you to go through retraining. Um, and they'll take people, I believe, up to 60 years of age, because I guess they greatly need people right now. So has been something I've been considering doing. But there's no requirement for me to ever go back after I've ended my term of service. AJ says anthrax was no joke. Yeah, no, I'm not saying anthrax was a joke. I was saying that it was this widespread rumor at the time in the army, um, that we will be required all to take an experimental vaccine for anthrax. Plus, where I was currently stationed at Fort Detrick in Frederick, Maryland, is where they do a lot of Army medical research. So a lot of us thought we were going to be the first line of people who were going to have to get the shot, but that wasn't true. Yeah, the DC National Guard will take prior service members up to the age of 60 right now. Yep. Sounds crazy, but you gotta remember a lot of these people are still physically fit. And on the other hand, a lot of people in the National Guard and the reserves aren't that physically fit. So it kind of makes sense. And like I said, I would consider doing it. Like I'm 46, but I'm pretty physically fit. Like I run every day. I do martial arts. I hit the gym. So um, I wouldn't mind it. Like I was even considering doing a few Muay Thai fights, but Yeah, I would consider it. Plus, if I did go to DC National Guard, I would see if I could still qualify to go to jump school, just so I could get that out of my system. I've always regretted not going to airborne school and air assault school when I first enlisted, because at the time I just wanted to come get home and go to my permanent duty station as quickly as possible. I didn't want to extend my training. So if I did do DC National Guard, that'd probably be the first thing I would do, is see if I can still qualify to go to jump school. Get my wings. um, and what other sort of rumors? Oh, here's another funny rumor that we had. So when you go into basic training, I don't know if they do it now, but they used to make us drink a lot of, you know, um, juice that had electrolytes in it, right? Um, they called it victory juice, but it was basically like a cheap version of Gatorade. We called it victory punch, a victory juice, and it was because it was like cool. I think it was like Kool Aid, and they added salt to it, but it was like, to get your daily electrolytes, because when you're physically active, you have to get a lot of electrolytes. That's why here at home, I'm always having muscle cramps because I don't get enough electrolytes. If I'm not like eating bananas and stuff like that. But the rumor was with the victory juice, that we were drinking, it was that it makes your Peter soft, that you couldn't get erections during basic training because of the juice, this victory juice we were drinking. And I was telling the guys that's not really true. I was like, what? I said, the reason why most of us aren't having those arousals while we're in basic training is because we're around a bunch of other men. We're not around titillating things that would get us aroused. And I was saying it's definitely not true, because where I went to boot camp, which is used to be called Fort Jackson, I think they renamed it because all the old army posts that are named after Confederate officers have been renamed because of, for social justice reasons. But Fort Jackson, we used to call it Fort Relaxing Jackson, and it was one of the few co-ed boot camps in the army. They even did a movie there. If people ever saw the movie called Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito, when he was like an English teacher who was teaching the kids Shakespeare while in boot camp to make them more well-rounded soldiers. That was actually filmed at Fort Jackson. Um, so it was one of the few uh, boot camps where they have co-ed training with the women. And I could just personally say that my physiology still functioned while drinking this victory juice. That's all I'll say about it. As a matter of fact, I remember a friend and I, like when we were running our 2 mile run, we both came in at the same time because we decided to just watch this girl booty as we ran laps, as we did our 2 mile run. And the drill sergeant, he said, he said, soldiers, he said, you both came in at 13 minutes and 47 seconds. He's like, he said, what was your motivation? I was like, we was like, oh, well, we were properly motivated, drill sergeant. What we doing? We was looking at cakes jiggle. Hey, hey, whatever works. There was, and when we went to bivouac, there were some people who had sex with some of the girls on bivouac. Bivouac is like our field training exercises where we're out, like, camping, but doing like, assault patrols and all that sort of, like, practicing assault patrols and setting up a perimeter and defending it and all that sort of stuff. So we did that for 3 days. And I remember before we even went out there, the drill sergeant said, hey, you guys gonna be out here 3 days, no shower and this and that. He said, now, I realize, we're all adults here, that some of you are gonna wanna do whatever. He was like, I'm just gonna say, I don't know about you, but I don't want any 3 day beaver that hasn't been washed or whatever. He said, but some of y'all nasty and gonna do what you gotta do. And that That definitely happened. As a matter of fact, it was. I mean, some of the female soldiers, like, they were just as horny as the dudes. Like, I had to tell this girl no. Like, our last day right before graduation and boot camp, she's like, let's go up to the. She's like, let's go up to the latrines because no one will find us. I was like, nah. I was like, if they find us without our battle buddies, I said they're gonna catch us. Plus, she had already gotten in trouble for other stuff before, not sexually related, but she had already been like pushed back, like been washed through boot camp like a few times. So she should have already graduated like a month before me. And I was like, nah, she's bad luck. I'm not risking it. So I'm glad I didn't, because that would have been embarrassing to get caught doing it in the latrines the day before graduation and then have to be recycled again and have to do a whole new fresh 60 days of training again because of that. So anyway, sorry for that long story. um Let me see. um Pradeep Kumar says hi. What's up, Pradeep? AJ says go for it. I'm thinking about the only reason I haven't done it, AJ, is because I plan on moving. That's the reason why I haven't signed up for it. But when I saw it earlier this year, I was highly interested in it. I'll look into it, but like I said, I'm probably not going to do it because I plan on moving, so I wouldn't be able to do the DC National Guard. But it is tempting. Kelly says I went to Jackson 2016. It was not relaxed. Maybe not to you. To us, see, you don't think it's relaxed because you don't have the comparison with the folks who had to do boot camp elsewhere. The folks who had to do boot camp with the guys at Fort Bragg will tell you Jackson and Fort Jackson and Fort Bragg were not the same, not at all. Like, at Fort Bragg, they have to go through Hell Week with the airborne and special forces guys. So it's much tougher. And Fort Bragg is not co-ed. Like, Fort Bragg, like I said, when all those guys, they're doing Hell Week, the the boot camp soldiers in training have to go through Hell Week with them. So Jackson was quite relaxed compared to going to Fort Bragg or to I forgot the other one. But because I remember when I went to AIT to advance individual training, and we were comparing, they was like, man, you guys had it easy at Jackson, because they were telling me what they went through. I'm like, what? Are you serious? So yeah, it compared to them, it was definitely easier. So moving overseas, AJ, I plan on moving back to my wife's home country and staying there. So like I said, I wouldn't be able to serve here in the capacity of National Guard if I'm overseas. But if I am here, it would be a good idea, especially if, looking at how things could get crazy sometime by this summer or November with current political events going on. Kelly says my senior drill sergeant was 11 Bravo. He made sure we got the real experience. Oh, that's what's up. I mean, he's actually helping you by doing that. To be honest, he's we were red phase for 8 weeks. Yeah, like I said, that's similar. That's kind of similar to what they do at like Fort Bragg and those other places. That was no joke. Like the dudes were like literally envious of us when I was telling them about Fort Jackson. They was like, for real? They say, man, y'all had it easy. Kelly says by 2016 they were focused on breaking that stereotype. Oh, okay. Yeah, because like I said, we everyone known as Fort Relaxing Jackson. That was the that was the moniker. So we got 10 minute phone calls. You mean throughout the whole time? Even during reception? At least during reception, you got to do phone calls, right? I know I use my phone calls because I had a girlfriend at the time. I used to call her. Is a reception. We had our phone. See, but you gotta remember, I went in '98, so we didn't even have cell phones. So that wasn't even a consideration at that time. We didn't come there with cell phones, and even just a lot of basic personal stuff you weren't allowed to have. Like you were supposed to keep that in in storage until after you came out of training. He said when we got to our units, they were locked up. Okay, makes sense. Because there's jokes like I don't know if you know the YouTube like internet comedian Yusha Thomas. Um, he jokes a lot about a lot of military stuff, and he was showing he was making comparisons of like boot camp from like Vietnam era to like the era I went in came in like around the '90s, and then the the contemporary era right now. He was showing how the guy was like, I'm gonna use my cell phone and did you touch me, drill sarge? Say now I'm gonna have to write you up and all this sort of stuff. It was funny, but all every I'm not gonna fall into the trap that every other veteran does when they always try to say, "Oh, you guys are soft now. We were hard." Everyone does that. Literally, everyone does that. The old army always calls the new army soft. I'm not gonna fall into that trap. Um, just and then the other common myth was that you guys gonna receive stress cards. They've been talking about that since I came in. They were saying, "Oh, you guys are gonna receive stress cards. So anytime you get tired or upset, you can just wave your stress card to drill sergeant and say you've had enough." That was that was that wasn't true. That never happened. Then they were saying, "Oh, you guys gonna be in the new Hollywood barracks. You're gonna have it nice." And I'm not gonna lie, the barracks were nicer than the old school barracks. So that part was true, but the whole thing about stress cards that just was not true. That's been an ongoing rumor for like the last like 30 years. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly right, Kelly. There was an experiment where they tested the stress cards, and that was it. It never became a part of military training. It was like because they even talked about that on us. If you know the urban legends page, Snopes.com, that investigates a lot of urban myths and legends. Sad now that a lot of journalists turn to Snopes instead of doing their own research. But yeah, Snopes.com debunked that myth a long time ago. It was like one little experiment that the military did, and from that, the military, like everyone in the Army and Marines, made up this myth that all the new recruits are going to get stress cards, and that never happened. Johnny Ortiz says, "Yo, what's up, Johnny?" But like I said, I one thing I did enjoy about basic training was the co-ed training. Like I said, when I'm on a run and I'm seeing cakes, that motivates me. That's plus plus the other thing was, the girls typically were slower on the run. So after I finished my 2 miles, because I would typically finish like my 2 miles in like 13 to 14 minutes, which is still kind of slow for a guy, but for a woman, that's fast. So almost all of them were still running after the guys finished. And so I would just keep running around. I would motivate them, like, come on, keep going. So a lot of them were like struggling. They would stop or start walking and want to give up. And I'm like, no, keep going, keep going. So I would like walk. I would, doing the PT test, I would just try to motivate them. Like, come on, let's keep going. And I would just keep running with them to keep them going. I figured that's the less, you know, I figured that's the least I can do since I enjoyed looking at the cakes. So, but anyway, Kelly says we did have Hollywood barracks. At the end, we got detailed to clean up an old barracks. The old barracks, the biggest difference were the bunks and the showers. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, what they call new Hollywood barracks, those were true because our bay was significantly more had a higher upgrade than the stuff that I seen from the old timers back in like the 80s and 70s, like the barracks they had. That looked rough. Or when I was in Germany, when we uh when we were doing our training and we had to stay in these old timey barracks. I mean, they were all right. They weren't that bad, but they were just like kind of bare bones. but they weren't that bad. Um, but yeah, I had fun. Like my father was surprised because he's an army vet. And he was surprised I actually had fun in basic training. He said, "Man," he said, "basic training wasn't fun for us." He's like, but that was different because he went in when the Vietnam War popped off, so they were being trained directly for to go into combat, and like you went, you know, um, you went into active duty with your basic with your basic training folks. Like that wasn't the case with us. After basic training, we all broke up into our individual places for AIT. Kelly says downside is when they made us carry the lockers and beds down to the drill pad for some for some fuck games. The new lockers and beds are way heavier. And I was lucky. I remember my platoon was the only one where the drill sergeants didn't toss our Bay Area up. Like everyone else, their drill sergeants tossed up their Bay Area and smoked them and made them like clean it up for a day, and then would like toss it right after they cleaned up and make them do it again. Our drill sergeant wasn't on that noise, so we definitely had a little bit easier out of my company than the rest of them. Shata says I was a guard in Guantanamo. That's what's up. Were you Marine, Shata? Kelly says I Bay got tossed like once a week. Yeah, they want that they want that they want that shit with you guys. Like I said, they never tossed they never tossed our Bay. Well, our company, the the company we were in, every the other three platoons, they got their bays tossed at least once. We never got ours tossed. And I think maybe the only reason was that we only had two drill sergeants instead of three. Maybe that was why. And then one of the guys they brought in at the end and towards the end of training was like he was like a brand new drill sergeant. He was like a little bit too nice. But it was cool. Like one of my other drill sergeants, he was like this Puerto Rican dude. He even told us his story about like how he joined the army. He said before he joined the army, he couldn't even speak English. Like he said like literally everything that happened, like he just did whatever the drill sergeant pointed at. He didn't understand English. And the other guy was like, you know, a white Southern guy who was cool as shit. Like I thought he was gonna be like the strict one, and he wasn't. Matter of fact, he got on he got on me once for laughing at some fat people, which is like I said weird now that they won't allow overweight people to enlist, but they allowed overweight people to enlist back then. Like I said, because I was laughing when they were talking about how some of these guys were gonna have to be recycled. Um, and he was like, "That's not funny." He said, "It's not their fault that they're out of shape." He's like, "They got to work at it." And so I shut up. But it that just shows how different it is now. There's like higher standards. Like they won't even let some of these people enlist who are significantly overweight. But there were like people who were like morbidly obese when I enlisted, like in my platoon. You have five drill sergeants for 32 people. Damn, that's why y'all got tossed up so damn much. You have five drill sergeants. Like I said, we only had my platoon. We only had two, and like I said, we were the only ones who only had two. Like every other platoon had three drill sergeants. We only had two, and both of them were laid back. The funny thing was the drill sergeants from the other platoons I almost liked a little bit better because when they were smoking people, it was just funny as shit. Like one guy, he straight up looked like um what's the Italian actor this always with Rob that played in a lot of mobster movies with Robert De Niro. Um, damn, what's his name? Like in Goodfellas and Casino. I can't remember his name, but um, did what's his name? Well, anyway, there was a drill sergeant that literally looked like him, and he even sounded like him. and he would smoke people at a he was he would smoke people at a moment's notice. He's like, "Hey, soldier, what you doing without? Where's your battle buddy at?" He's like, "Drill sergeant, my battle. Yeah, you know what? I think I see him over there in the front leaning rest. Why don't you go there and join him?" He was funny as shit because he sounded just like the Italian actor. Like, so, anytime he smoked people, it just sounded funny as hell. I couldn't. I had to like try not to bust out laughing. And we had female. We had a few female DSs as well. Matter of fact, one female DS, I got smoked because of her. She didn't smoke me. The male drill sergeant smoked me because because of something I said. So we were coming off the firing range, and you have to clear your weapon, you know, before you leave the range. And she checked it. She she put the rod through my rifle to make sure it was clear. There was no nothing in the chamber. And you had, you say no brass, no ammo, drill sergeant. And she's like, "What you say? What you say, soldier?" She said, "What you say to me?" I said, "No brass, no ammo, drill sergeant." She said, "No, you didn't." She said, "You said no ass, no brass, didn't you? Didn't you, soldier?" I was like, I was about to bust out laugh. I was like, "No, drill sergeant, I didn't say that. I said no, no brass, no ammo." And she was like, "All right, soldier, I got my eye on you." No, no. First she was like, "Where are you from?" I was like, "I'm from Baltimore." She was like, "All right, I got my eye on you." She was kind of cute too. Not, I'm not gonna hold you, but yeah. So I walked by, and I started giggling, and I was like, "Yeah, no brass, no ass, drill sergeant." And one of one of the male drill sergeants heard me. He's like, "Soldier, what you just say?" I was like, he said, "No, get down, get down." He busted out laughing. He was like, "Get down, get down." And the other male drill sergeant ran up to him. He said, "What did he say?" And he was like, "Yeah, he said no brass, no ass." And they just both bust out laughing while I'm sitting there doing push-ups. It was hilarious. Let me get back to the comments. Mercanoid Peanut Butter's back. What's up? He said my teacher was a vet who, during his time he was in Germany, he was also a police officer in Germany. Um, do some soldiers serve as police in other countries as part of service, or is that separate? So he might have his MOS. He might have been military police. That might have been his military. That might have been his military occupation. But also, like when we deploy, sometimes we can be used as law enforcement um, in certain capacities. I wouldn't think so in Germany. Like more so, like in um, certain places. So like one of the biggest difference between like I guess Army infantry and Marine infantry is that Marine infantry is their mission is basically as an invading force, right? Whereas the Army infantry is more as um, a occupational force. So whereas the Marines will come in and tear shit up, we're supposed after they come through and tear shit up, then the Army infantry will come and hold that place down, hold it on lock. And sometimes, as an occupational force, we do have to serve in the capacity of sort of like law enforcement. But I wouldn't think that would be the case in Germany. Like I said, unless he was actually like military police. Cully says Al Bay wasn't full, and we only had 3 out of 4 platoons. Oh, okay, so they had to give y'all something to do. So that's why they kept tossing y'all tossing y'all Bay up every week. That would suck though. Yeah, that's what I was telling him, Kelly. The military police is a specific occupation. That's what I'm thinking that was because he wouldn't they wouldn't use them as law enforcement in Germany. Kelly says it really sucked to not have a full bay because we had 6 people up every hour out of 32 people. It wasn't if you had a shift. It was how many in one night. What, you had 6 people pulling guard duty every night? Like, I mean, you only have 32 people. Why do 6 people need to pull guard duty? Or some of them also doing, or was it like some people were doing guard duty and then some people were doing CQ? Because people, most people love doing CQ though. Oh yeah, 2 fire guard, 2 staff duty, 2 suicide watch. Suicide watch. Damn, I don't remember us having a suicide watch. What was going on over there? I do not remember a suicide watch. Like I remember we have we had 2 folks basically do guard duty, and that was pretty much it. And then they wrote, the shift rotated, and then you had some people that would be called to do CQ for the commanders, but um, most people actually looked forward to. Most people wanted to get CQ if they could. Kelly says a kid in our Bay was claiming to be suicidal so he could get out. He was an officer's son who didn't want to be there. Lame. That's why. So first of all, wouldn't he catch, like, I don't know, wouldn't he have caught an article for that? Like, wouldn't he get an Article 15 for doing some shit like that? And then he's lucky because the old school army, you know how they would have handled that. Nice little soap. Nice little sock. And yeah, I mean, we never did that when I was in training. We've heard of it. I mean, it was still going on when I enlisted in '98, but I haven't known anyone that's gone through it or heard of, but that still happened back then. But yeah, that sucks. He was around forever because they were trying to do paperwork on him. So what, did they just keep recycling him until they were able to push him out? I'm guessing he would have just got, I don't know, I don't know, maybe other than honorable discharge or something. Yeah, eventually got, oh, near the end of the cycle. So did he get like other than honorable discharge? I know his father was probably embarrassed the shit of him. Like like, and going into the service, not like he even had to go to. It's not like he even had to go through OCS unless he chose OCS. But just to be enlisted, I mean, he could have literally just sailed through training. He's already an officer's kid, so he's gonna have it plush, and he could have, you know, he could have done something easy and like logistics or whatever. He's probably a shithead at home, so his dad made him sign up, probably. But if that's the case, his father probably knew he was a fuck up. He probably should have sent him to military school before he even had him enlist, because that's, enlisting is voluntary, so you can't really force your kid to do it. I mean, you can. I mean, I guess you can force them to enlist, but that doesn't mean they have to go through with it or follow it to its end. Standard issue military brat type. I would have been pissed. So none of y'all tried to beat him up for making y'all have to do suicide watch, because yeah, he would have caught some hands. If back in my day, yeah, he would have caught some hands on some shit like that, making us pull suicide watch. Nah. And then he was probably completely useless when you had to do like other stuff, like whatever. Biden any violence. I mean, violence wasn't tolerated when I went in '98 either. I'm just saying, even if it's not tolerated, people are gonna, when people are stressed out, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. Like, everyone's tired all the time. I was tired, but the only thing I hated about basic training was that I was always hungry. That was my only complaint about basic training, that I was always hungry. the best time that we ate was actually doing bivouac. And I told people that like I ate well during bivouac because a lot of people started hating the MREs, and I was like, shit, let me eat it. And I was eating like three, four, sometimes five MREs because people didn't want it. Like at least they didn't want their entree, so I was eating like three, four, five of them every day. So I was eating well during bivouac. That was the best time I ate during basic training. Kelly says, so we just had beefs last the whole cycle instead of getting resolved. Mm. Sometimes you gotta put hands on the people. That was the best part about doing the hand training and doing the pogo sticks because the drill sergeant even said he's like, man, we know some of y'all stressed out, so he said this is the day to get it out. He said, you know, so he said y'all want to get all that frustration out. He said today is that day, and we can do these pogo sticks. So I ended up like doing mine with a friend, so I wasn't gonna beat him up, but I kept saying, yeah, I can't wait for pogo sticks. I'm gonna fuck somebody up. but it actually, but they actually paired me up with one of the guys who I was friends with. So we were just like kind of playing around with each other, but I still ended up kind of knocking him down. It accidentally, I didn't knock him out on purpose with the pogo sticks. It was just kind of, sorry, not pogo, the pugil sticks. I kind of knocked him down with the pugil stick, but I didn't mean to do it. GJC says, my son is 7 and loves passing by a military base near our house. We often discuss how we'd feel if he signed up. He should feel proud if he does. Like I said, the military has been a way for folks to get entryway into different government positions, um, certain high tech education. Um, for folks who come from the working class, it's been a way to become to rank up and get into the higher socioeconomic status. So if I had a son and he wants to do the military, I wouldn't tell him no. Kelly says I kept yelling at the kid in the bunk next to me because he would stay up all night talking. Oh hell yeah, nah, you gotta shut up. That's either that or I'm putting in my earbuds. Like, I would definitely probably just put in my earbuds if someone's talking all night, or we gonna have some words. Kelly says he wanted to fight me, but I was bigger than him, and I'm white, and he's black, so it would have been a bad look. Uh, See, yeah, I get it, but still, if someone's a jerk, they're a jerk. Matter of fact, I remember we had a racial issue in boot camp with us because the guy, the one of the guys who was assigned to be platoon guide was this white dude, and I remember the black guys joking saying, "Man, he looked like he's straight out of GI Joe." They was like, "He looks like Duke," and like a lot of people thought he was uptight, but I talked with him. He was cool as shit. And I remember when he broke us all up in teams, a lot of the black soldiers were complaining, saying he said, why did he segregate all of us? He said he got all of he said you got they said all the he said you got the white teams and the black teams. And so I actually, because I'm cool with him, I just talked to him. I was like, how were you assigning teams? I said, because some of the people were complaining. He's like, man, he said, I just assign people based on the people they like to hang out with, which made perfect sense. Like everyone thought he was being racist, and he was just doing it from a common sense point. He was like, all right, let me break them up into teams based on the people that they like hanging out with in training, and that's how. But everyone always wants to see things through race-colored lenses. When he was just looking at it from a common sense point of view, like, who do these people like hanging out with? Okay, they like hanging out, so I'm gonna make them a team. Those guys like hanging out, so I'm gonna make them a team. So forth. It made perfect sense. I was like, well, no, I understand. I said maybe next time you should mix it up so people don't feel like it's, you know, deliberate or what. He's like, oh, I got you. So, um, GJC says, I work for a major bank, and the senior leadership asks if you have ever been a part of the military. You can be propelled to promotions, assuming you're also good at your job. Yeah, exactly. There are still a lot of people who honors military service members. Kelly says, I do my best to be anti-racist. We all have biases we need to fight. Yeah, we all have our biases. But I'm saying the worst thing is when something isn't even racist, but people want to just automatically assume bigotry when there is none, just because that's the only way they can see things. Like I said, the case in point was that time in basic training when they assumed that the platoon guy was racist just because he broke up people into teams with their friends. It just so happened that people who they were friends with all tend to be of the same race. So, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, basic was fun. Like I said, other than being hungry all the time, that was my worst gripe. And now, after now they've extended. Actually, no, I think they did it in your time, Kelly. Um, they made Army boot camp an extra week. Because it used to only be 8 weeks of boot camp and then 1 week of reception, which is a total of 9 weeks. But now I think it's 9 weeks now with the week of reception, so it's a total of 10 weeks. Oh, you were the squad leader, okay. I don't know if I was assistant squad leader or whatever, but I was like the guy who was next to me was squad leader, and I think they only assigned it based on like height. Like, it was this Indian guy, he from New Jersey, and he was the squad leader. But I was like right next to him, so I pretty much just follow whatever he said. Um, and because I don't think I was considered assistant squad leader, but whatever. If he had it more, if he was more squared away than I was, I I wasn't worried about it. Because like to me, basic training, like the whole assigns of platoon guy and squad leaders didn't it just seemed like sort of like make believe to me. But that's only because, like I said, we weren't serving in a during a wartime theater, so it wasn't like back when my father's time when in like when the you know the folks they served with and I mean they trained with in boot camp became the actual like unit. So it was different. But if it was, I would have been more. I would have been way more ambitious. An platoon guy was a female chick. She was, I think, half white, half Asian. I think she was cute. She sort of reminds me of a more athletic version of the daughter from Bob's what's that cartoon on Fox with Bob's Burgers? The girl, the daughter with the with the glasses. That's what she looked like, but like a more athletic version of her. But anyway, I'm gonna go soon, guys. I'm gonna eat myself. I mean, I'm not gonna eat myself. I'm gonna go fix something to eat for myself. Um, and now and thinking about MREs and stuff got me hungry anyway. So I'm also been planning on going to either a surplus store or maybe one of the sporting goods places to try to find some of those dehydrated meals. Some supermarkets have them, but not where I am. Or I can order them online. But I wanted to get a bunch of those. I want some of them for my bug out bag and for my vehicle for like emergencies. Uh, Kelly says we had 2 weeks of reception and 8 weeks of boot camp. 2 weeks of reception? Dang, y'all got 2 weeks of. So they did extend boot camp, but instead they just extended reception, but it was still 8 weeks of boot camp. I thought they made it 9 weeks of boot camp and 1 week of reception. That's weird. Like you need 2 weeks of reception because like by like the third or fourth day of reception, we were bored. Like we were ready to start boot camp. Like it was nothing to do during reception for the most part. We were just sitting around. So it got boring like after the third or fourth day. Like you got all your vaccinations, you got your uniform and this and that and all that other sort of stuff. But it got reception got boring quickly. I couldn't imagine having to do 2 weeks of it. Um, TJCs are women treated differently by leaders and or peers. I've heard it can be bad for females in the military. Yes and no. They're treated differently, but it's also easier for them physically. Like we used to, like it was a long running joke in the army and probably Marines as well that women could be like smoking and pregnant and still pass their PT test because their standards was so much lower than the men for qualified for qualifying scores for the PT test. It was like, yeah, they could be pregnant and smoking and pass their PT test. So on that end, they had it easier. But sometimes yeah, they were taken less seriously. But if they, but you know, if they outrank you, you better respect them. If they're of a high rank, if they're a commissioned officer, you better listen to them. If you value if you value your career. Um, but yeah, they could be taken less seriously. Of course, it's the military is a fraternity, so that's going to happen. Kelly says the only real difference was if someone in my squad was effed up, I was effed up too. Yeah, Kelly says mainly only in the field did it really matter. Um, but later, later too, later as well. Yeah, because guys, I'm about to leave. DL says who you voting for this year. So I'm gonna say who I'm voting for, and again, this is not to say that this is whom you should vote for if you're voting at all. But I am voting for Trump this year, and to put all my cards on the table, I did not vote for him the last couple of times. In 2020, I voted for Biden, and I feel really bad for doing so because Biden has almost no like nothing how do I put it nicely? Nothing about his campaign interested me except when Bernie supported him because I was a Bernie supporter. But other than Bernie ended up supporting him after he got railroaded, that's when I voted for Biden, and I regret doing so. Same thing with Hillary. They really f f Bernie over in 2016, and I just can't do it anymore. I can't support the blue side anymore. Not that I switch parties. I'm an independent, so I can vote for whomever. However, unfortunately, in Maryland, they don't let people who are independents vote in their primaries. You can only vote in the general election, whereas in some states, independents can vote in the primaries. So I remember my mother asked me, was I going out to vote? It was a few months ago, and I said I can. I'm an independent. I don't do primaries. I can only do the general election. And she was just like, oh, because she assumed I was a Democrat, and I'm not. But yeah, so yeah, basically I'm voting for Trump for several reasons. I've actually did several videos explaining why. I did some YouTube shorts, and I've done some long form videos talking with a friend explaining why. Um, but yeah, that's the way I'm going currently, and I hope that doesn't piss anyone off. But I do have my reasons. I just can't, in good conscience, vote for Biden again. I, I I feel bad for doing so, and it's so ironic that people think that black people voting for Trump are sellouts when, to me, it's more unconscionable to vote for Biden, a guy who you know was against desegregation of schools back in the 70s, worked along the white supremacist Strom Thurmond, and basically praised himself for doing so, saying that he was able to work across the aisles in Congress to get things done by working with white supremacists. He did a eulogy of the KKK leader Robert S. Byrd in the 80s. Um, he's had some issues with race throughout his political career. Yet again, they want to paint Trump as the racist. Um, and most egregiously was that he co-authored the 1994 crime bill, which sent tens of thousands of black men to prison, some who are still languishing in prison today because of that crime bill. Um, uh, and he's been running for president since the 80s, guys. If you haven't realized, like, he was a strong contender for the Democratic nomination back in 1988. So they found out that he had lied about his education. So um, I can't in good conscience vote for that man again. I feel bad for doing so back then, but all of us were kind of, well, not all of us, some of you weren't, but a lot of us in the black community were brainwashed into thinking that he was going to be the savior or whatever in 2020 that we needed to get things back to normal again. But I remember things going pretty swimmingly well from 2016 to 2020 up until the pandemic. And that pandemic wasn't our fault. I'll just say that. I won't say whose fault it is, although I've said it before, but YouTube doesn't like that, and its algorithm doesn't like that either. So, and then yeah, of course, there's the talks about what happened in the Middle East and stuff like that. Um, the only thing I do agree with that he did was that he ended the Afghanistan war. He, ironically, he catches flack for that, but that was one of the very few things I actually agreed that he did. So, other than that, uh, I can't rock with him. What's up, Jason? Jason says hello from Poughkeepsie, New York. A lot of you guys are just jumping in, but I'm about to get off really soon. Risky says, Bayou says, stop genocide. Which one are we talking about, though? My problem with the whole pro-Palestinian stance is that some of you guys are saying stop genocide, and it's like you have a narrow lens of what's going on in the world when you know there's other things in other parts of the world going on. Are y'all saying that about, are y'all saying that about the folks in China right now? Like, they're Muslims, the Uyghurs. No one cares what's going on with them. Not even other Middle Eastern countries care about what's happened to the Uyghurs in the Xinjiang province. No one cares about that. They care about stuff going on in places like Nigeria, um, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Somalia. So, unless we're talking about genocide everywhere, um, you know, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and just hope that you're saying let's stop genocide, period, and not just talking about the Israel Hamas war. J.A.C. just Trump just need to shut up. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been as egregious as he used to be on social media. Remember, that was one of his biggest problems going into like 2020 was that he just seemed out of control, particularly on Twitter. Like, so much so that there were people in the Intel community at the time saying that the stuff he was saying on Twitter could have led us to war. Um, and I mean, like, really close to war. That's all I'll say. I can't say any more than that because it's above my pay grade. But apparently, back then, like, some of the stuff he was saying on Twitter could have really caused some end of days type scenarios if it got too far. But it seemed like, I mean, so he's been readmitted. he's back on Twitter, or now X as it's called, and he's back on Instagram. But I really don't see him being as, I think, he knows better now, or his team, he has people, his team probably handling his social media now, which is better because a president does not need to be tweeting at 5 a.m. saying, "Man, f this such and such." Like that's just so unpresidential. But yeah, as long as he keeps that to it, as long as he can chill with that, I think he's good to go. Like I said, so far since I've noticed on Twitter and on Instagram, I haven't seen him flying off the handle. Like the worst things was that they kept saying that he was talking about the case with, with the Stormy Daniels thing and all of that sort of stuff. That he, some of that stuff was a little bad, but it wasn't like back 4 years ago. So anyway, like I said, I hope what Risky is referring to as genocide going on all over the planet, because the Israel Hamas thing is a complicated issue, and it's just one of many things going on right now. Plus, I can't really call it genocide when they attacked first. Like, and I know people say, well, that's because X, Y, and Z happened. But if we're going to go down that chain of events, then we're going to end up going all the way back to times of antiquity. Sort of the same thing with, like, Russia and Ukraine. Like, people say, well, Russia invaded them, until we, realized, a year ago that actually this was triggered by something that Ukraine did, and that was kept under wraps until it made it into mainstream media, and it was still not really fully talked about as it should have been, that they kicked that off. Not to mention by, and they actually attacked a part of Russia where they were like, people of ethnic Ukrainian descent, that, and they kind of wanted to make that part of Ukraine again. And so that sort of inflagrated that whole situation. Not to mention that Russia just kept seeing it as a threat, that they wanted to become a part of NATO, and they kept saying they did not want NATO on their border. So, in any case, that was also a chain of events that could have went all the way back to medieval Europe. So instead of going down that historical chain of events, let's just go with the most recent and say, hey, this kicked that off, and if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be dealing with all these proxy wars now. Like I said, America is now involved in 3 proxy wars between Russia and Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, and China and Taiwan. So um, that's all I'm going to say, because that'll get us into a whole different conversation. And I know there's strong feelings on both sides. But all right, guys, I'm going to go. I need to eat. I'm hungry. Again, I just wanted to, for folks who just came in, this live stream was just basically about commemorating the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which was the Battle of Normandy during World War II, which turned the tides of the war for the Allied forces. And like I said, there were 73,000 American soldiers that landed on Normandy, and out of that, 4 Medal of Honors were won that day by U.S. soldiers. The highest medal, that a member of the armed forces can receive, which is given to people for valor in combat. So that was the purpose of this live stream, because I wanted to do this last night, but I forgot, and I had other things to do. So again, hats off to the surviving World War II veterans still out there, who lived through that event. To me, these are like bona fide heroes. Like, this is stuff like people just look at in movies and play on video games, but these guys actually did that. They weren't playing video games. They weren't watching a movie of seeing other men do this. They actually did it. And these were people, some who were like as young as 16 years old, 16, 17, 18 years old. They were kids. So let's just remember that. All right, but that's it, guys. Have a great one. I may be back this evening with another live stream. Thank you.